Now, I'm absolutely delighted to share this venue with a good colleague and friend, dear friend, Dr. Patricia Gillen. And Patricia's going to share with you her work that she's been doing in home birth, investing in women and midwives. Over to you, Patricia.
Thanks, Marlene, and hello everyone. I'm delighted to be here on the International Day of the Midwife 2021. Oh gosh, what a year it has been for everyone, and interesting to hear that the visiting restrictions have been lifted. So it means that partners will be able to accompany women. Whenever their birth partners will be able to accompany women when they're going in labour and into hospital and for all their visits and things like that, which is just so important, and it's been called out for so long. I just need to be able to share my screen, Marlene, so I just need you to maybe...
Yeah, I've made you co-host, Patricia, so you should be able to share now. Just
Okay, so it'll automatically stop, Marlene. That's okay. I didn't want to do anything that I shouldn't do. That's grand. Perfect. Thanks so much. That's me sorted now. So thank you. Hopefully you can all see this. So I'm delighted to be here this morning, and I'm just talking to you about one of the pieces of work that I'm involved in at the minute. And I'm working with Dr. Maria Healy from Queen's and Dr. Olivia Bamadelli, who works in Hull and also has worked with us here in Ulster and Queen's. So we're delighted to have her on board with us. This is just one of the pieces of work that we're doing around home birth. Maria and I worked with a large group of women and maternity care providers. And I suppose in the last couple of years, 2 years ago now, we launched the guidelines for planning a home birth. And during that time, the women were talking to us about their experiences and what it was like to plan a home birth in Northern Ireland. And out of that has grown the research that we're currently doing. And what I'm talking to you about this morning is just a small piece of that research and a very brief overview of the work involved in the systematic review that we're undertaking. So I've called this Investing in Women and Midwives because I do very strongly believe, and always have done, that we do need to invest in women. We do need to value them. We do need to place them at the centre of our societies and understand how important they are in allowing our societies and our children and families to grow. That's not in any way to dismiss clearly the contribution of men. Clearly they have a lot, but we all are very aware that at times women are not valued as much as they should. And indeed midwives, as they stand alongside women, they play such a valuable role in caring for women and the families. So for the partners, for the birth partners, for the fathers, for the other siblings. And so I just think it's vital that we invest. And one of the ways in which we can do that is to support and promote home birth and to give women real choice in relation to service provision. And we know that there are great challenges. There's a lot of brilliant midwives who are working very hard to provide brilliant home birth services for women and to support them in every way that they can. And they are challenged by the infrastructure, by the systems behind them. They're challenged by the availability of midwives. They're challenged by the infrastructure. They're challenged by so many things, and they still do a brilliant job. So it's just to recognise that. So really just a little bit of background. As we all know, a woman's chosen place of birth does impact not only on the type of birth, but also the number of unnecessary interventions that a mother and baby are exposed to. Now we all know that there are many life-saving interventions that take place day and daily in our maternity units, but there are also many unnecessary interventions, and it is these that can cause harm to mothers and babies. The place of birth also impacts the outcomes of mothers and babies, and not always in a positive way. And it can also impact quite strongly on the woman's birth experience. And we have heard again and again from women that we've been talking with to say, you know, it's not just about the outcome. Of course, all women want a healthy baby. They want the very best for their babies, but they also want to have a birth experience that they can look back on. And many women have told us their own stories of how they have felt really empowered and how their life has changed and how their view of the world has changed as a result of a positive birth experience. So when we were starting our systematic review, we wanted to synthesize the findings from previous studies which reported on women's experiences of planning a home birth. And very much in consultation with maternity care providers, we wanted to look at that aspect about what was that added value whenever women worked collaboratively with maternity care providers, and when maternity care providers worked collaboratively in planning a home birth with women. We're very aware also in the background of all of this that there are an increasing number of women who are choosing to have a free birth because they are not feeling that they're getting the support that they need from maternity care providers. So that's an important thing to remember as well. So our search strategy, we searched 9 databases systematically using a range of search terms: home birth, childbirth, the expected ones that you can see there, and they were amended according to the database that we searched. The studies that we chose were those in English, as we had not got access to translation services, and from 2015 to May 2020. And we did exclude conference abstracts, as many of them do not include the detail that we needed. And they did indeed relate to many of the papers that were already published in journals. We looked at relevant papers from backchaining and the reference lists of papers that were included, and also we valued very much our professional networks and received phone papers within them. We had 586 papers returned, and then following deduplication, title, abstract and full text screening, we ended up with 16 eligible studies. They were qualitative in nature, included 275 women aged 18 to 40 years and ranged across 9 countries: Australia, Brazil, USA, UK, Switzerland, Canada, Netherlands, Spain and Norway. It's important to say that we were looking at middle to high income countries. We undertook thematic analysis and have reported our systematic reviews using the PRISMA guidelines. So some of the key themes, and as I've said, this is really a quick run through. I could talk about this probably for an hour, but I have 10-15 minutes and you don't have all morning. So the motivation and empowerment, this came out very strongly. Many of the women across many of the studies talked about the fact that planning a home birth was a real catalyst for them to look at how to problem solve, how to find the information that they needed, and how to take positive actions to ensure that they were able to plan their home birth. And they very much felt empowered by this action, but they very much felt that they had to do that. They were motivated to do it in order to have their planned home birth. Some women did experience stigma as they got varying levels of support from friends and family. Some of the women in the studies that we included were able to talk about having very supportive friends and family. Others talked about actually hiding not their pregnancy, but their plans for a home birth from their family and friends, because they knew what sort of reaction they would receive and that it would not be a positive one. Others talked about their family history, about the fact that there was a family history of home births and that that had actually helped them and supported them in their choice. Many women talked about the positive experience and that how the midwife's confidence and competence, support and prioritization of safety and making the woman feel safe and giving the woman really, I suppose, woman-centered care. And that really enhanced women's confidence and their overall positive experience as they planned their home birth. However, not all women received that support. And indeed, some of them were very much aware that maternity providers and women often have different perceptions of risk and often felt that risk was always at the beginning of the conversation with some of the maternity care providers, not all, and that this was a challenge that many of the women felt they had to overcome. And they did that by informing themselves, by looking at the data, by looking at the information that was available and finding that information for themselves and making their own choices based on their own decision making, and often in collaboration with their partner, their birth partner, or the father of the baby. So negative experiences really came, as I've said, from criticism from maternity care providers, and unfortunately, you know, anecdotally as well as in the evidence, it comes across very strongly that often, you know, women are told they're going to harm their babies, that they're going to cause harm to themselves, that they're going to regret their decision. And those sort of conversations aren't empowering for women, aren't helpful, and did negatively impact on women's experiences. So what are the implications then for practice? So women who plan a home birth do seek out information and like-minded people to support them in their choice. So we need to understand that, you know, women who want to have a home birth and chose to have a home birth should be supported. They will seek out the information they need. They will surround themselves by the people who give them the support they need. And those people do need to be midwives. They do need to be the maternity care professionals, as well as family and friends. And it's important that midwives are proactive in informing women about the evidence. And indeed, in some of the papers, there was evidence of that, where women felt that the midwives did provide them with the information they need. Some of the women found that they actually turned away from talking to the obstetricians and turned to midwives when they felt they want to get further information about planned home birth, because they felt that was the best source of evidence and information for them. And the women felt very strongly that midwives need to complement their professional knowledge with compassion and empathy. And indeed, on occasions that was clearly evident, but on others it wasn't. And there is a strong need to make the evidence base around home birth more easily accessible, not only to the women, but also to members of the public, because it's clear that if there is a stigma associated with planning a home birth, that clearly members of the public do need better information about the reality of a home birth and the safety of home birth and the outcomes that are possible in home birth. So implications from research, one thing came across very strongly, that none of the studies reported on the ethnicity of women. And given our recent Embrace report and the outcomes for women from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, I think it's really important that we really look at that very closely in any of our studies. And then how best we support women in their choice of planned birth. We need to understand more fully how women feel about how they can be supported in their choice. And as I said, women do not make these choices lightly, and they are really well informed. So thank you for listening. I'm wishing you all midwives a very happy International Day of the Midwife. And I look forward to actually getting this work out and published. And we're also undertaking a study at the minute, which is with midwives and maternity care providers, and it's looking at their experiences and perception of planning a home birth. So we're undertaking some more focus groups with women and maternity care providers next week. And then we'll get all that data together and get that published and out there as well. That's an important piece of information. As I've said, it's come from very much from the women in Northern Ireland who said we need some research on this. So thank you all for your time, and thanks for listening.